reality, I'm starting to think that Welcome Home is about the capitalist hellscape of being useful at your job. Hey, it's Allie. Welcome back to my channel. Happy Easter, happy spring. I hope you're having a wonderful spring. It's finally getting warm up here in NYC. Finally, after weeks and weeks of April showers. It's still April, so we'll still probably get some showers, but it's now nice and sunny. The flowers are blooming. Well, not every flower. Welcome home. Y'all remember her? It's been a while since I've made a welcome home video on this channel. In between me making my last welcome home video about Eddie and now this video, there was a live stream in between there you might have missed, which was a Poppy update. I'll talk a little bit about it later as I get to my thesis of this whole video, but just know that if you missed that, there's that. You can go watch my live streams on that right here on YouTube. Yes. But today we are not talking about Poppy. We are not talking about Wally. I mean, we are, but not right now. We are talking about Julie Joyful, the resident happy flower girl herself, monster girl herself, Julie Joyful. This update was all about Julie, how she loves to bring flowers into springtime, she can talk to them, and how she just brings joy to everybody around her. At least that's what she likes to think. Okay, I love the way that this looks. There's a lot of flowers everywhere. Very springtime, which is not good for me because I have allergies. Julie, I already have stuff to say. Oh no. So yes, if you're new here, Welcome Home is a horror project, though we just shorten it to ARG over here. It doesn't take place over the course of like many different places, but it is just easier to call it an ARG, so we just call it an ARG. Recently got a new update last week that I went over here in detail on this channel, live streamed it. You can go watch that video if you want all the nook and crannies. I'm gonna gloss over the like important bits here so that we're all on the same page for the sake of my theory, but if you want to know every single nook and cranny, I went through basically all of it on that live stream, so go ahead and go watch it. But basically upon entering the webpage, things are already a little bit off. Now, first, of course, the landing page has home dressed up in a lot of florals, the flowers are blooming, everything's cutesy for spring, right? Just like it was for Halloween. However, when we click into the website, Wally's gone. And instead of Wally being there, it's Julie. Now, in most cases, this would be pretty innocuous as like, okay, it's a Julie update. She gets to be front and center this time. However, Wally being missing starts to become a pattern. And it's something that I didn't even notice at the first go around. Lesbian colors. Anyway, we'll get back to that later. Semi-lesbian colors. I think they're missing like the little orange bit, I think, but like close enough. Is Wally usually in this picture? He's not, right? This is the same picture, it's just the colors are different and there's flowers everywhere, right? Wally's not usually in this picture. Yeah, I was so enamored by this almost lesbian flag, it was just missing the orange, that I totally forgot that Wally was supposed to be in that picture. I did. Wally is also missing from this picture with Barnaby, and from a couple of other pictures as well. Where did he go? We don't know. Also noted saying that I did not notice, but a lot of people in chat did, was that on the neighborhood page, Wally is no longer looking towards us and his canvas is gone. Now, I will say this, as a person who hasn't been on the website since the last update, this worked on me. I think the beautiful horror of this is the fact that these are very subtle changes, that unless you like are like super diehard and like noticed it right away, it kind of went over your head. It's like the small things that like slowly get to turn weirder and weirder and weirder until, you know, you realize that Wally is completely gone. Which I also find very interesting because there are certain two neighbors who were not in this update at all. And that, of course, is Eddie and Poppy. Poppy specifically, nowhere to be found. She is on the neighborhood page, I believe, and she is also in the pictures, like the banner pictures. However, in terms of the storybooks, in terms of any of the musical stuff, any of that stuff, she is gone. She's not there at all. Eddie is there a little bit at the beginning of the little springtime picture book thing. He's there. We never see his face though. And we only ever see his voice, and he's only there for like 2 seconds. And also, funnily enough, Frank barely interacts with him. So already, before we even get into any of the Julie stuff, this slowly change of like status quo is being felt on this website. So next, let's talk about Julie Joyful's siblings. She has 3 siblings that are all a part of a band. And yes, I love them all so much. Their designs are so cute. I'm glad we got to see a full version of them. Of course, I love the goth one. What else is new? But something that I noticed a lot whenever her siblings would be brought up is the fact that her siblings are kind of tired of her. Now, granted, these could just be their personalities. Like, they have that kind of hippie, kind of chill vibe. And Julie is definitely not that. In fact, I saw on Reddit, and I will put it up here, that people are speculating that Julie isn't even a monster because her horns are so different than all of her other family's horns. Her colors are a bunch of different things, which we'll get into the ideas of queerness about that in a second. We will. Do not worry, especially when we get to Frank. Do not worry. But she seems to be the odd one out. She does not live with her family. She does not participate in the music with her family, despite the fact that she is supposed to be a part of this family. And to add more to this maybe feeling of inadequacy that she has towards her family members, during the video about the cereal box, which is kind of like almost this hidden thing, because it's mentioned on the website, this is something that no one really knows where it came from or how to find it again. And in it, they go through each of the monsters and talk about what makes a monster do the thing that they need to do in order for spring to come. However, Frank, who is always in all of these promotional materials, we'll get to that. Do not worry, we will get to that, is constantly asking, okay, but Julie, what do you do? What do you do? And at the end, it's actually very vague. She makes the flowers bloom. She talks to them and all this other type of stuff, right? And it's very interesting. It's very like fantastical and whimsical and it's cutesy. However, comparatively to her other siblings who have very tangible things that they all do, hers just being she makes the flowers bloom is a little like, All right, to talk about the rest of this update, we need to talk about frankly. All right. They're playing with my emotions. If you did not know, Clown, the creator of this series, has gone on to say that one of the themes of this horror project is rampant homophobia and like the 70s/80s. That's when this about takes place, and that is something that we can start to see a little bit on display here. It's very subtle, and it's a very like, you really got to be paying attention to what's going on, and you kind of already have to know this is like supplementary information in order to really clock it. But once you clock it, oh, you clock it, girl. So number one, as I stated before, Frank is in almost all of Julie's promotional material. Where there is Julie, there is Frank. And to those two, it's fine because they're besties. They're best friends. And you know what? Me and my best friend are like this too, you know? Like, and my best friend is also a guy, so it makes sense. We're like this. However, much like in the early 2000s when everybody and their mama would come up to us and be like, so y'all two are dating? We're 12, by the way. Y'all two are dating? Y'all are dating? The same can be said in a much more subtle fashion with Frank and Julie. It is important to note here that as of right now, it seems that nobody really has agency in what they do in this show. So all of the stories that they put on, all of the songs that they sing, as of right now, it seems like they don't have their own agency to decide whether or not to do those things. This is really highlighted in the Sweet Briar or the like Sleeping Beauty cartoon, the picture book that we saw. Now this very loosely follows the story of Sleeping Beauty, and Eddie is nowhere to be found. I want to mention Eddie so badly. No, Wally over here, lovely Wally, he gets to be the king, and it is the cutest thing ever. But Julie is his daughter, which like interesting that is the connection there, because we think like, oh, Wally's like, he's the main character guy, so he gets to be the king, right? That makes sense from like a storytelling perspective. However, later when we find out like the kind of connection that Julie and Wally might have to each other, I think that was a very like specific choice that was made to have them be like kind of that close to each other. But anyway, story of Sleeping Beauty, she gets sent away to live with Howdy. I fucking love Howdy so much. To go live with Howdy, and she finds out she's a princess, and she comes across Frank, who is the prince in this narrative. Who else would it be? I don't know. But like, he is the prince in this narrative, and they are playing their parts well. All right. They're just having a little goofs and a gaff. Like, it is very clear, because they break character sometimes, that everybody here is just having a goof and a gaff. All right. In fact, Sally Starlet is the only one really taking this seriously. In fact, she took over for the narrator. where's the narrator? Huh? Sally, hello? Where's the narrator? So it's really interesting that Sally is the one who like is taking charge right now, because it's very like, girl, why are you because it calls into question, was the original plan to have Frank be the prince or whatnot? Who knows? Anyway, so Frank is the prince in this, and they're having their little moment. It's cute, right? It's very clear, like Frank is just, he's here to say his lines and nothing else. Okay, a notable attribute of this variation of Luffy Lou is its lack of a narrator, or rather its inclusion of Sally Starlet as one. Oh, okay, there was a lot to unpack in that description. First of all, I think we talked about this before, way back when we first got confirmation outside of the canon right now of Welcome Home that like Frank and Eddie are a thing. And how much so far it seems to be pushing a lot of like Frank and Julie, like the show itself. And we were like, well, maybe that was a thing that they were trying to do, is like push this whole Frank and Julie thing, even though they are like clearly besties. They are clearly besties. But like maybe the show was like, well, they're besties, sure, but we can make them like more than that. Maybe that was like a very much so like a leap of a theory, because we have no like substantial evidence for that. But like I find it very interesting, we went from, oh, this is her best friend, to all of a sudden he's a prince in this story, which like makes sense in terms of like, oh, we just need a character to be the prince in this story. We'll see. And then also Sally Starley is the one narrating this. Interesting. Very interesting. We love him though. Eddie, again, nowhere to be found. Poppy, nowhere to be found. Concerning. But back to the whole Frank and Julie thing. So blah blah blah. She gets put under a spell and goes to sleep. Very funny moment when in the beginning of the book, when Sally is like, yeah, Barnaby's the evil witch or like whatever, and he can't come to the party, and Wally's like, Barnaby can't come to the party.
I am inviting everyone else in the kingdom, except for Barnaby the Wicked.
Why
Barnaby can't come?
Oh.
Little did the king know, Barnaby...
It's the cutest fucking thing. Also, this picture of Wally staring at the like burning spindles. Okay, king. But yes, Julie is asleep, and of course the only way to wake her up is True Love's kiss. Very notably, it skips here to Julie just waking up. Like, she just wakes up. Like, and I think she did that herself, because obviously Frank is also not complaining about it at all. Julie just wakes up. She's like, oh, I'm awake now. My prince came to save me. Yay. Awesome. Like, you know, cool. The day is saved. Woohoo. Like, it is very like clear and deliberate that they missed that kiss on purpose. In fact, as we were like going through it on stream, I was sitting there like, what are they about to do with this kiss? I was like genuinely concerned. I was like, what are they about to do with this kiss? And then they skip over it. I just, that was very, very intentional, the fact that they skipped over this. Because especially in any kid's book, oh, you would have seen that kiss. You would have seen that kiss, absolutely. Even if it was just a little, mwah. But the fact that we didn't is a very, very deliberate choice. And it's very obvious that both Frank and Julie only really see each other as best friends. And of course, we have Frank's like gayness, which has not been in canon discovered yet. I have a feeling, unfortunately, it might be a plot point. He might be next, and it might be a plot point. I'm a little scared, but like because we're getting to the point now where like Frank again is being heavily pushed into all of Julie's stuff, and there's got to be a reason why the company would want to do that. So something really interesting that I think is a little different than the other updates that are happening now are these more secret videos. So we've had secret videos before, and there have been codes on the website to decipher them and to find them. However, it seems that now we have two separate kind of continuity of secrets going on. We have awayfromapryingeyes.net, and we have the Welcome Home website, and all of the characters who are slowly coming to this like disillusionment or unrealization of the world that they are in. Because this go around, in order to find all of the secret videos that have to do with Julie, there is this secret kind of video of Wally speaking that is very concerning. Very concerning.
All right.
He sounds
I will
upset.
speak for all of us. I am happy to. You are here now, but for a long while, you were not.
And in this video, he is speaking in a very clipped tone. Like, he is almost not in control of himself. And at first, me and my friends were trying to decide, like, is somebody speaking through Wally? Is Wally speaking through somebody else? It's hard to tell. However, I think that Wally might be trying to contact us, the players or whoever trying to find on this website. He's also maybe trying to contact W in this case, right? We'll get to them later, do not worry. But it seems that Wally is having a harder time to do it, right? He speaks of all of the letters and things that he was trying to find, which may be the type of like puzzles that were in the last like updates that we now can't really access. And so him not being able to access them either is maybe a little bit of a clue that like he's having a hard time trying to reach out to us. So all this time it's him trying to reach out to us. Maybe he's trying to tell us about his friends and how they went missing. I don't know. Leave your comments down below on that whole stuff. Like, people are still in the camp of like Wally's evil, Home is evil. Who's evil? I don't know if anybody's necessarily evil in this case, right? I think it's more just of a desperation. Like, my thought is that Wally is just very, very desperate to try and reach out to us, because maybe he watched all of his friends get picked off one by one, or go through all of this disillusionment, and he's scared for his friends and his family. Because in here he talks about home. Home also sounds really old and really creaky and like not put together very well, just the same way that Wally is. But whenever he speaks about home, he doesn't necessarily have anything negative to say about home. And I think that's very important to understanding that I don't think there are really any huge antagonists. Like, I think the antagonist is going to be the Marlboro, whatever fucking company, the like company that's running this show. I think they're going to be like the evil bad guys in the end, right? But like, I don't think that any of the characters specifically are going to be. Maybe Sally. I'm still very suspicious of her. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe my mind will be changed on her. Who knows? But yeah, it seems very weird. But anyway, we get instructions through Wally to go find the flowers, right? Go find out about Julie, right? And I think that's very interesting that maybe he knows that like, okay, this update is about Julie. Maybe I can tell you what happened to her. Here's what happened to her. Please go find this, right? And maybe it's out of like, not necessarily Wally being evil, but this desperation to help his friends. I don't know. That's what I would like to go with. But again, let me know down in the comments below. So the puzzles for this one, very complicated. So he tells you to go back to go find the flowers. Okay, I had to re-record this because this is like so wrong. So instead of like having to go find like flowers and the names and stuff, like the game board on the Toys Discovery page has a bunch of flowers in 3 like row increments. You're supposed to find the meaning of those flowers and put them in order, and you'll get the 3 words that you're supposed to put after the website. So it'll be welcomehome.net / and then those 3 word phrases. Okay, I hope that made sense. I was on a time crunch when we were doing this, so I didn't have time to figure this out. So shout out to Reddit. I will put it on the screen. Shout out to Reddit. And what we get from these are a series of videos. So in these videos, we come across Julie, who has come across a flower that's not in bloom yet. All the other flowers seem to be in bloom. She specifically tells Frank, who's there with her, she tells Frank that, oh, I can talk to the flowers. And she usually talks to them. And they come across this flower that's like still closed up. And she tries to talk to it, but the flower's not in bloom yet. And she's like, oh yeah, the flower's not in bloom yet. So like, come out and bloom. It's spring, come out. The flower does not bloom. And she starts to freak out. She starts to freak out because this is her job. Seemingly, this is her only job, right? Her job is to make the flowers bloom. And if she cannot make this flower bloom, well, then what good is she? And so these videos are kind of Julie having this like mental breakdown, going between her like inner self and her outer like joyful, high-pitched voice. So speaking of voice, and her inner like kind of like maybe the real voice that she speaks in, being very concerned and scared that if she is not able to make this one flower bloom, then what good is she? She's not like her siblings. She's not like everybody else here. And very interestingly, there's a part in this that kind of calls back to one of the picture books we saw where she was talking to Wally about painting something and painting like creativity, or like, was it creativity or spring? Something along those lines, right? And at the end of this, notably, it skips over, was it Eddie? She like goes through everybody in town, and notably it skips over the people who aren't there. And there's a part that's missing. And in the end, it's like a really weird, like, oh, did that really happen? Yada, yada, yada. And so it makes us wonder, is Julie telling the truth about all the like helpfulness that she is to this neighborhood, right? Like, is she really this helpful to the neighborhood, or did something else happen? Like, again, this could be phrased in two ways. This idea of like, oh, did that really happen, Julie? Is Julie lying to herself? Or is that Wally trying to get to her to be like, no, you really need to remember what actually happened. Like, you're sitting here thinking about like how useful, not useful you're being, when in reality something else could happen, right? So let me know about your theories on that too. Because I feel like that can go both ways. That phrase can go both ways there. But yeah, Julie is freaking out. She breaks character. She curses. This is a children's show, Julie. And I think all of this coming together about how different she is, I think, again, the queerness of it all could relate to that. She could literally just be queer on the set, right? Like the whole almost lesbian flag. I'm not over that. Like, we're literally just missing orange, which, like, Julie is orange. I'm just saying. The fact that she herself is like a bunch of different colors. Her deal also always being rainbows. I'm just saying. But I really liked this idea of usefulness. This is now the third time where we have come across a character who is feeling and somewhat relating to the story and not being super useful to what is going on. It happened with Eddie when Eddie didn't have any mail to deliver. He freaked out. He freaked out so bad, right? And to the point where he went through this big giant disillusionment and kind of derealization and realizing what the fuck was going on in this world. And now he's like gone, like missing. Same thing happened to Poppy. While Poppy didn't have necessarily like this idea of like, oh, I'm like not useful or anything like that, they did kind of see her as not being useful because she did not want to participate. And if we want to relate that to real life, I talked about in my Eddie video how it made sense that Eddie, as a character that had to do with mail and maybe being a little bit out of date for a kid's show, him being one of the first to go. Poppy being the next one to go also made sense because she is a really big puppet that is really hard and probably very expensive to keep up. So just shutting her away somewhere in a set somewhere that is never going to be used again makes sense, right? Not accommodating her. We can also relate this to ableism. I don't know if I talked about that in my live stream, but the fact that she is really big and has a hard time moving places and is stuck and is stationary at home, and instead of accommodating her, the set people just decided that like, oh, we're just gonna get rid of her. We can't accommodate her, so we're just gonna get rid of her. That screams ableism to me, but like, okay. And then now here we are with Julie, who maybe she knows, like whether it's subconsciously or consciously, about what happened to Eddie and Poppy. And she knows that if she is not useful, she will be cut. Either cut from the show or cut from life. We don't know. But it seems that like everybody has their place here at home. And the more useful you are, the better you are at staying alive. That's what it seems to be now. We have a pattern of that happening now. And so I imagine the next couple people that this might happen to is Frank. Frank is next on the chopping block. All right. The only person who might be last is literally like Howdy, because he literally sells things. He will be the last to go. He is their advertisement machine. He sells things. Barnaby, because I don't know what Barnaby is like to me. I'm really suspicious of Barnaby. He's giving like watchdog. I don't know why. I don't think he will be the next to go. He just like, out of everybody else, he seems like the most put together, like physically, and he's always with Wally, and I just don't know. I feel like if we're talking about like on a advertising scale, like getting rid of Barnaby would be something that people would notice very quickly. Getting rid of Eddie, getting rid of Poppy, that's not something a lot of people would notice. When Julie's usefulness has run its course, getting rid of Julie, also not something a lot of people would notice. However, getting rid of Barnaby, who is like Wally and Barnaby, like that is Wally and Barnaby. It's weird to see them without each other, like the picture. So having Barnaby be the next to go doesn't really make sense to me. So in like order, I really do think it, like in terms of the next people to go, I think it's gonna be Frank. Unfortunately, I do think it's gonna be Frank. From there, maybe it's Sally, and I don't think Sally's gonna go down without a fight. That's the thing. Is I don't think she's going down without a fight. Maybe the reason why she took over the narrator, she said, I'm here and I'm useful, babes. You cannot do this without me, Sally Starlet. Thank you. So I think that's very interesting. Obviously, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think this idea of usefulness and being useful at your job, that's a thing we've all come across, right? You want to go above and beyond at your job because you don't want to get fired. You don't want to seem as lazy. You want to be useful. You want to make yourself indisposable at your job because they can just get rid of you at any second, right? Hitting a little too close to home. Anyway, lastly, let's talk about Wally. So I talked about how it seems that somebody is either speaking through him or he is speaking through somebody. This person being W, right? W is getting worse and worse and worse, I fear. They seem to be shutting themselves inside of their home with little to no light. We see this when they're like, oh, I found this toy and I really want to show it to you, but I cannot like use flash on my camera because I'm very sensitive to light right now. In fact, there's a little puzzle that you have where he's like, oh, I took a picture of this toy and I really want to show you all, but I can't use the flash because I'm very sensitive to light because I haven't been outside in a while. And you have to take it into Photoshop and use the contrast and brightness setting like 5 times. I struggled with this because I used the contrast and brightness setting and nothing happened. Oh, but you had to use it like 5 times to get this picture of this like very destroyed looking toy like box thing. And people are speculating that it's the little, the only other toy that we actually see that has no description for it. It's this little like monster caterpillar looking thing. And so people are thinking the box is for that. And people are also thinking that maybe that this toy might return. Maybe it's some sort of listening device. Who knows? All right. But that's a very interesting little tidbit about W. Also, W ate like 60-year-old soda. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you drink that? You're already going crazy. Why would you drink that? So I mentioned earlier about how it seems that there are 2 continuities going on. There's whatever's happening in Home in terms of what is happening to the characters in Welcome Home. And then there's whatever's happening to W. And now these seem to be 2 separate things going on. And maybe eventually they will converge back together. But right now it seems like there are 2 different things going on. So whenever there is an update about W, it seems like it'll always be on awayfrompryingeyes.net, at least for now. I think that eventually they will coincide with each other because I think Wally is trying to like bridge that gap there. But I think anything that's going to happen to the characters is going to happen on the Welcome Home website. Anything that's going to happen with W is going to happen on awayfrompryingeyes.net. So W goes on to talk about how basically they've been slowly going insane, but the fact that they've been making headway with this project is very interesting. We pretty much get confirmation in universe that every update from here on out is going to be character focused. So it'll be about one specific character and so on and so forth. They talk about the ringing a lot, which is something that we actually see on Wally's homepage. Instead of Wally like talking to us like he normally does, again, he's not looking at us, we hear this ringing sound. And so we can assume that this ringing sound is also the thing that W is hearing, right? And is also the thing that of them Wally trying to reach out to W. Again, I don't think it's in a malicious way. I think that Wally is desperately trying to get help. And W, for some reason, is like the way to see that. It'd be so interesting if W was like a person who used to work on the show. Like, we don't know how old W is, but like maybe W was somebody who used to work on the show. Maybe W used to be the voice of Wally or some shit. Who knows? I'm just throwing shit out there. Let me know your like theories down in the comments below as well. But yeah, lastly, I just want to talk about the question answerer because it seems like the question answerer is the one who's still sending this stuff to W. And the question is, who is that? Is it Wally? Is it just a person? Is this person being malicious? Who is the question answer? There's so many questions. I think we're still definitely in the ramp up phase of this horror project right now. So I don't expect to get answers anytime soon. I don't expect to get answers until after the next update. So the next update will happen. It'll probably be about Frank. And I don't suspect that there will be any actual answers until then. Because it seems like everybody else, maybe Howdy doesn't know what's going on, but Barnaby definitely knows what the fuck is going on. And so does Sally. It is very clear at this point that these 2 know what the fuck is going on. That's why I'm like, Barnaby is not going to be the next. I will be so surprised if Barnaby is the next to go at any point because he seems to know what's going on more than anybody else here, right? Same with Sally, right? Sally also seems to know what the fuck is going on. So it'd be very interesting to see that like Frank goes next and then the next update after that, which might be a summertime or maybe fall update. But the next update after the Frank update, we might get some like concrete solid answers. But for now, I'm so okay with just sitting here and going for the ride. I love all of this. The art this go around was so good. It was so good. Guys, if you haven't already been supporting Clown, I think on Ko-fi, it's like $3 a month, guys. Or buy some merch. I know I'm like a show right now, but honestly, this is just one person working on this entire project. And while I'm sure they have enough money now to continue to work on this project due to merch sales and things like that, I really want you guys to support them any way that you can, even if it's just giving a follow, watching this video, commenting on this video, and literally getting the word of Welcome Home out there. Especially because I think the fandom has quieted down a lot. Me and my friends were actually talking about that yesterday, and that honestly might be a good thing. I've already talked about like gatekeeping and fandom. I don't think we should gatekeep. All right, anybody who wants to come in can come in. But I'm just saying, I think it's a good thing that the fandom for this fandom has kind of quieted down a lot. I think Clown has also talked about like kind of the unease of this getting super popular like before. So maybe now that it's a little bit quieter, we can be freaks together. Anyway, let me know how you felt about this update. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. I just needed to talk about this real quick. And also the makeup. Peep the makeup. There's a lot of different theories people were talking about. Like, people were talking about the fact that, like, Julie's horns might not be real. People were talking about the fact that the flower looks like the Malboro, or what, Malboro? Is it Malboro? Like, logo, the little spiral, the fact that it's a spiral in general, the fact that the flower looks bigger and more grotesque, Clown does grotesque like so well, like very subtly grotesque. I love all the like subtleties that's going on in Welcome Home. All of the color, like it all means something, and I can't wait to like see what it all comes to. So make sure you support them on this journey. I will be here every update, girl, right here on YouTube. You can go watch my live stream, all that stuff. Let me know if I missed anything, especially with the secret stuff. I had to like rush out when I was doing the live stream, so I did definitely miss some things, and I hope I found all of them later. Apparently there's a picture of Frank looking very scared and concerned. What's going on there? Frank is next. Frank is next, unfortunately. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know how you felt down below, and I will see you in the next episode. Love and peace. Say love and peace for Wally. Say love and peace. Love and peace. Bye.